All right. Hello. Good day, everyone. Welcome, gamers. My name is Jeff Olson, as many of you know, and we have a very special guest today for one of our interviews during this summer 2018 90-day game. I have Liza Pepple with me, and she is been with the company for 10 years, and she is the Director of Product Innovation. And maybe one of the things you don't know about her is she is the person that took Juice Plus Omega blend from start to finish. And we're going to hear a little bit about that. She runs the Farm to Capsule program. She oversees the global procurement of all of the produce. We're going to unpackage that, how it's made, what it's made, where we're positioned in the industry. And so today we're going to kind of take you behind the scenes and talk to the woman who leads the charge for our global health food company and understand kind of what makes this thing come to life, who, what, how, when, where, why. So Lisa, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And what I'm going to do is just let you tell your story, and then I've got some questions for you, but we're excited to have you today, and thanks for joining us. So tell us your story. How did you get it? You joined it 10 years ago, but what were you doing before you joined the Juice Plus company? And let us know kind of the last 10 years of the evolution in your titles and where you sit today, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty stuff that everyone's excited about talking about.
Sounds great. Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful that you asked me to join this lovely meeting. Forgive the dude in the back. It's it's always
he's the groundskeeper. It's the groundskeeper. It's okay. It's all good.
All right. So yeah, I joined Juice Plus 10 years ago. I actually got my degree in chemical engineering from Clemson University in South Carolina. You can see my Clemson football calendar behind me. Huge college football fan, just for those of you who don't know it. I started my college career at University of Georgia, finished at Clemson, so I've been having a good couple of years, just to let everyone know.
Yes, you have.
I'm looking forward to another good year this year too. But back to the topic at hand. So I actually joined a company in the Midwest, an agribusiness company, and was actually doing engineering. So I was a plant engineer working in a food production facility. I was developing processes to improve how things were made, how foodstuffs were made. And then I ended up actually managing several of their nutritional ingredients. So I was actually on the ingredient side and got a call from a recruiter talking about an opportunity at a company down in Tennessee. And I thought it sounded interesting. So I came down, and I was actually hired at Juice Plus to really do their quality program. I had some quality experience, but that wasn't necessarily my biggest capabilities. So one of the things I love about the Juice Plus company is that they allow you to really do whatever you want to do. So when I got here, I started in quality and really saw that there was a need for more product development, supply chain management. And so I raised my hand and I said, hey, I'd really like to do this side of things. I'd really like to get a better understanding of what the raw materials, where the raw materials are coming from, really develop the relationship with the farmers and with all of our partners throughout the manufacturing process, make sure that we are on top of everything from farming through dehydrating the fruits and vegetables, through manufacturing them into our finished products and getting them out to our consumers. And, the Juice Plus company, being who they are, said, yeah, go for it. So I've kind of worked my way through several different processes over the years, starting, I kind of feel like I've done it from the beginning to end. So starting with quality, then really working with the farmers and working with our drying partners to ensure that we are getting the best produce, the highest nutritional produce that we can, and then working with our manufacturing partners to ensure that we are getting that, all of the parts of the process are getting better and better and better as we go. And then really my latest venture has been in the new product development side of things. So that's where my product innovation title comes from. And that's where I was able to really ideate and bring the Omega Blend product to life. So it's so far a fantastic 10 years. I'm looking forward to several more decades of fun at Juice Plus for sure.
That's fantastic. So we're going to talk about Omegas. I want to start with really kind of, we all love and watch. I think it's probably one of the most watched videos out there for those of us in the field is how Juice Plus is made. How do you get fruits and vegetables into a capsule? And so maybe just at a high level, walk us through, harvest, freeze, transport, juice, dry, encapsulate. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of processes, but the overall goal is try to do as little damage as possible to matter that matters, as I say. So help us understand sort of the process and help bring that to life, and then I'll ask you a few more questions around that.
Definitely. So that's one of the great unique things about our products is that as opposed to other companies out there, we actually have relationships with our farmers. So we've been working with the same farmers for, in some cases, the entirety of Juice Plus. So 25 years of working with Juice Plus, we've been working with some of the same farmers, and they are fantastic. They take the products and they understand why we need such great nutrition. So we work with them to make sure that we know everything that goes onto the soil, into the ground, any kind of pesticide that they need to spray. And pesticide, just so everybody understands, pesticide is a very general term that can include both organic or non-organic compounds that are to help maintain pests. And pests can include funguses, insects, herbs, anything. So we work with the farmers to make sure that they're only putting things on the ground that are going to be beneficial and not harmful to the produce itself. So we do a lot of things like a lot of what we call alternative pest management processes. So things like pheromone traps to discourage certain insects from even coming into a field. We don't spray herbicides on our products at all, ever, because we don't feel the need. If we need to remove weeds from the fields, we do it by hand. And it definitely costs a lot more money, but it's what we feel is the right thing to do. And anytime that there's a need to put anything else on the ground, we make sure that it's in the appropriate amounts, it's not going to cause harm, and that it is going to be gone from the produce before it's ever harvested. So there's something called a half-life. And there's a lot of great new organic compounds that can be used to specifically target different pests, but that the half-life is so short that you can target a pest, get it gone from your ground, get it gone from the fields, and before you harvest, there is no trace of that anybody can find at all. So these are the types of things that we do with our farmers. We also make sure that they're using appropriate water. If they're having to irrigate, we're making sure that they're testing the water to ensure that it doesn't have contaminants from other people's farms in it. So we'd like to make sure that we are doing all of the appropriate things. And one of the things that we've really started to focus on with our growers now is making sure that from an environmental perspective, we're ensuring that we are taking the most care with the land itself. So it's not just about the produce that's grown on the land. It's about the land itself and making sure that that it is going to be there for the next generations of people to have great food. So Lots of care in the farming side. And once the produce is actually grown, so we do a lot of testing, as I mentioned beforehand. We test the water, we test the soil, we test the actual seeds to make sure they're non-GMO, and then we plant. And during the growing process, we're testing things as well to make sure that the right nutrients are getting to the right parts of the plant, to make sure that everything is growing appropriately. And then after harvest, we test again to make sure that the produce has the highest nutrient content as we expect it to. And from there, most of our produce is actually individually quick frozen. And that process is done within hours of harvest. So essentially, it gets harvested, it gets cleaned. We go through a 3-stage cleaning process. So the first stage is just to get the dirt off. So it's essentially just dirt and chunks of other stuff, twigs and leaves and everything that comes with harvest gets washed with just a water, and then it goes through a light soap wash. And essentially that's just to make sure that there are no contaminants from any harvesting equipment, any of the people who have touched the produce during the process. Anything that was on their hands gets washed off in this process, and then it goes through a rinse. So those 3 stages of the process, of the washing process, and then it goes into a freezer. So this is a huge freezer. Essentially, it's a belt-driven freezer that they take the produce down to like -30 degrees Fahrenheit. It's nitrogen cooled, and they freeze the individual pieces. So if you can think of like a cranberry going down a belt, and it goes into the belt as a fresh cranberry, and a couple seconds later, it is frozen solid all the way throughout. But it's still an individual cranberry. We don't freeze it in like sheets or in buckets. It's frozen as individual pieces. And that's important for the next step. So from there, it gets stored frozen until we're ready to use it. And a lot of people ask, well, why don't you just do fresh? Well, there's only certain growing seasons for most of the produce that we have. So I'll take cranberries as the example again. Cranberries are all harvested in one 10-day period in October. All of the cranberries in the world are harvested in 10 days in October, unless you go to the Southern Hemisphere, which if we have to, we do, but we try to use local produce. But that means that in those 10 days, we can get fresh cranberries, but otherwise, in order to get the best nutrient-dense cranberries, we need to freeze them, and then we'll dry them as we need them throughout the year. So that's why we do individual quick freezing, is really to ensure that the nutrient content of the produce is exactly what it was when it was harvested, when we are ready to dry it. So it helps keep the nutrient content high. So once we have it frozen and we're ready to use it, we actually take it out of the freezers and we let it thaw naturally. We don't put it in a hot box. We don't put it, we don't like put hair dryers on it or anything. We just put it out in ambient air and let it thaw. And because it's individually frozen, it thaws at a more uniform rate. So we don't have big chunks of product in the middle that are still frozen, and the outsides are so warm that they're starting to go bad. So that's one of the reasons we individually quick freeze it. And once it's thawed enough to be able to process, we put it into our juicer, and I like to call it a juice plusser, because I think it's actually better than a juicer. So most people think of juicers as something that you have to, take the peels off of an orange and put it in, or like peel a banana and put it in, and then you get this nice clarified juice on one side, and then you get all the fibers and stuff out on the other side. And it's really messy and all that great jazz. Well, there's a lot of great nutrients that you're throwing away when you juice something. And Juice Plus likes to include all of the nutrients in the products that we have. So we use everything. So we throw the whole orange in there, peel and all, We throw whole apples in there, grapes. We will skin things, like we will remove the skin from things that have issues with the skin, like mango, which is one of our newer ingredients. We don't use mango skin because there's actually some ingredients in mango skin that are harmful, and we don't use the pits of any fruit. So peaches, dates, or mangoes, we don't use the pits of those because they have challenging things within the pits, some bad bugs in there. So we'll remove anything harmful, but otherwise we process everything whole. And that's really beneficial because, like for an orange, almost all of the citrus bioflavonoids in citrus fruits are in the peel, but we don't eat the peel, so we very rarely get the benefits of these wonderful antioxidants. These are great potent phytochemicals that can do a lot of wonderful things, but we don't often eat them. So by juicing everything together, by blending it all together, including the skin and the seeds and the stems of broccoli, and even the leaves of broccoli go in, we're getting all that great nutrient dense produce as it was formed in nature. So we kind of juice it. Like I say, it's like a big Vitamix blender, so you can throw everything in there. It chops it up into a fine slurry, and then we send it over to our dryer, which is a proprietary process, but essentially dries the produce, takes the produce from a wet slurry to a dry powder in less than 30 seconds. So it's a fast drying process. The powder itself never gets above about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So we try and keep it at that temperature to maintain all of the micronutrients in there and to maintain as many of the live enzymes as possible. And that's important for our product as well. And then we actually put it into tubs, and we cool it immediately because that kind of helps make sure that it's not going to either start to go bad, because if you put something hot in a big pile, in the middle, it won't cool efficiently and it can start to go bad in there. But we do it very quickly, make sure that the amounts that we're cooling are small enough that it will cool all parts of it very quickly. And I like to say it kind of helps seal in all of that nutrient dense produce. It kind of finishes up the process. So once it's been cooled, the nutrients aren't going to start to degrade, which is great. So then we take that and store it in cool areas. We don't let it get hot. We transport it in cooler conditions, and we store it in cooler conditions until it goes into our capsules. And we blend it all together, all of these individual fruits and vegetables and berries and grains. We blend all together and then encapsulate them into our amazing vegan capsules, and put them in our bottles and send them off. So, lots of testing, lots of care, lots of pieces and parts, but overall, it's an amazing product.
We've been at this for 25 years now, Liza, and here's kind of what I say is, we're one of the largest buyers of produce in the world. We're a market maker in the acquisition of it. We work with organic and transitional farmers, and through that whole process, the goal is to try to do as little damage as possible. But the remaining matter, as I say, matter matters. And in the end, we've got these plant powders, as I call them. A category of plant powders is a category we've pioneered, in the world. We're kind of the Kleenex of the category, if you will. And in the end, what I say is, look, this is being used in utero with pregnant women in clinical studies. This is being used, with Olympic athletes. This is being used in stage 2, 3, 4, cancer clinical studies across cancer, across elite sports, across, bun in the oven, high-risk pregnancies. Number one, this is one of the safest things you're going to be putting in your body, every day that you can find. And we go one step further and also sort of through the whole process are testing and monitoring and QAing for any pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, any man-made, and then you layer NSF Sports certified on top of that. In the end, you know, 25 years later, you know, safety number one, common sense number two. Talk about from a standpoint of give people an understanding of how big I guess a market maker, a buyer in the global procurement process of buying the produce.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think of us as the Apple Inc. of health food. We think different. We build and make beautiful things. The buying of produce. Give us a sense of the scale of how much produce we're buying in a given year.
Yeah, a lot in a word. Yeah, so if you think about the 30 different fruits, vegetables, berries, and grains that go in just the Juice Plus fruit, vegetable, and berry blend products. So if you're looking at that, the amount of produce that we have to buy, we have over 100 farmers that we work with because single farmers can't keep up with all of our demand. We've actually started going out and finding new growers in Europe because one of the things that we're trying to do is trying to make sure that we are buying as local as possible, again, for an environmental impact. But also, you know, I think that there's something to be said about the microbiome aspect of what you find in the soil in the regions that you're from. So we have had such a huge amount of growth in the last 25 years that we've gone from working with, you know, small family farmers to working with hundreds of small to medium-sized family farmers, every one of which understands what we do and why they are the most important cog in our wheel. And they reach out to us. I have probably in any given week, I have 10 to 15 emails from growers that asks, you know, hey, we understand you are, you know, we know about Juice Plus. We know what you guys grow. We think we'd be a great fit. How do we get involved? And I don't know of any other area of industry. And again, I worked for an agricultural company before I came to Juice Plus. I don't know of any other industry or any other company that has growers, has farmers reaching out to them saying, I want to be a part of what you do. And to me,
we buy a lot of stuff. They want to sell us their stuff. Yeah, right. I mean, if I'm a farmer, this is a good account, right? It is a good customer.
Yeah, exactly. Because they know we're consistent. They know what to expect. We don't change anything ever, you know. Once we tell them our specifications, once we tell them our requirements, they know that those requirements are the requirements that are going to stay for a long time. So they know what they have to do. They know how much we're going to purchase. And, you know, to them, it's an amazing, solid, consistent account. We're not going to go away. We're not going to change our formulas to remove apple. You know, we adjust our formulas occasionally. The only reason we would remove an ingredient is if we can no longer get it in a format that we feel is appropriate for us. For example, papaya. So we worked with a lot of papaya manufacturers, a lot of papaya growers, but unfortunately, there was a ring spot virus that attacked the papaya trees. And the only way that they could keep the trees alive is to genetically modify them to be resistant to this ring spot virus. And while I feel like, honestly, this was a question of lose all of the papaya in the world or genetically engineer a tree so that it's resistant to this virus. And I don't know what the answer is, but I will tell you that from our perspective, from the Juice Plus perspective, we had conversations with them and we said, you know, we just can't purchase a genetically modified product. It just goes against everything that we believe in. So I apologize that we're going to have to not purchase any more papayas, but that's what we do. And, you know, we had this conversation with the growers. They understood where we were coming from. They, of course, didn't want to, he's doing a lot of work now.
Another gardener. No worries.
but they didn't want to lose us as customers, but they understood where we were coming from and respected our decision. And, we respected their decision to, to have to maintain their crop. I mean, this is what they've done forever. So, there are challenging times in agriculture, but the ability that we have because of our size to be able to really redefine what gets done is impressive to me. So.
Well, your title, thank you for that. That's fantastic. I could buy a cocktail and talk for hours about this stuff, because I just think, the whole business of growing food, harvesting food, freezing it, juicing it, I mean, that to me, that's fascinating. So thank you for that little sneak peek. And, the videos that you guys have done are fantastic, and they give people a little sense of, oh, this is plant powders, plant matter, and it's different than the traditional supplement approach. So thank you for a little bit of bringing that to life. As director of innovation, I love that word innovation, and coming out of, prior to Juice Plus, I was in the technology industry, and I think of us as a health food technology company with a disruptive innovation around plant powders and oils and so forth. And there's two kinds of innovation. There's innovation that makes, old things better. Mm-hmm. And then there's innovation that makes new things, that makes old things obsolete. And I think, the plant powders, I see plant powders as becoming standard of care in modern medicine. And it kind of makes a new thing that makes kind of the old approach maybe obsolete. And so transitioning to the new product launch of Omegas, and this was your baby. You were saying before we got on this call, you kind of view this as your baby, you saw this thing from starting line to finish line, meaning finish line getting it out into the world. Maybe give us just a high level overview on some of the things that were most meaningful to you in that journey. And then also, as I understand it, as you shared with me, we are the only one presently using this innovative, new way to preserve the integrity of the omegas in the capsule itself. And, between the plant omegas and the capsule itself, we really stand in the industry kind of without peer. There's no one that's doing this quite like we are. So bring that to life for us a little bit, because I know it's near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, this one is, it's a long process. People often think that innovation can happen and, just like that. We worked on the Omega product for nearly 3 years before it saw the light of day. So there's a lot of background work that had to be done to ensure, one, that we had the right blend of omegas. So the concept originally was, let's do an omega product that's like Juice Plus. So a blend, a concert, the symphony of omegas rather than a single omega, because we've seen how amazing that is and how much better that is on the Juice Plus side than simple extracted nutrients. So we really wanted to do that on the omega side as well. So we started looking at ingredients, and initially we had about 11 different ingredients that were going to be in this product. And we kept finding issues with one or two, or having challenges with stability, or with nutrient content, or with, finding sources that were clean enough for us, for example. So we had all kinds of challenges, and those 11 ingredients kind of got narrowed down to the ones that are in Omega Blend now, and that's the algal oil, pomegranate seed oil, sea buckthorn berry, tomato seed, raspberry seed, and safflower seed. And what we did initially, we started off with a concept. We wanted to look at blended omega 3, 5, 6, 7s, and 9s. We started looking at what ratio we thought would be the most appropriate, and then what ingredients could give us those ratios. We knew we wanted to have the algal oil as the vegan source of vitamin of omega 3s. That's because there are a lot of vegan sources of omega 3, but not sources of DHA and EPA. Most of the vegan sources of omega-3 are what's called ALA, which is a totally different omega-3. And in your body, and it's wonderful. I mean, there's nothing wrong with ALA, but in your body, in order to make that ALA work as the benefited omega-3s have been shown to work, so like fish oil works, your body has to convert the ALA into DPA or DHA. And that conversion is not done very effectively by most people. So we really knew we wanted the most potent source of omega-3, and that's the DHA and EPA. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the fish actually get their omega-3s, their DHA and EPA, from algae. So we decided, what we like to say, we decided to bypass the middle fish and go straight to the source and get this wonderfully clean algae. It's not grown in the ocean, so we don't have to worry about ocean contaminants. You know, people have often asked me, well, what about the mercury that's in the ocean? And what about potential radiation that's in the ocean? Well, the great news is these are grown in controlled vessels, so they are not touched by the actual ocean water, which is great. So we started with that. We found the sea buckthornberry, which is grown in the Himalaya mountains, and the story of this berry is absolutely amazing. So the nutrient content in sea buckthornberries is so potent, and it's potent for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons that it's so potent is because it's grown in such a challenging environment. So it's grown at high altitude where there is little oxygen, and it is extreme temperatures during the year. So these little berries are packed with nutrients because that's their defense mechanism to protect themselves against all these environmental challenges. So you have to go up into the Himalayan mountains. There's this little rickety road on the side of the Himalayas that they take to get in there. I'm terrified to go visit this place because I don't like bridges and I don't like heights. So I'm going to have to close my eyes and be sedated, but I'm going to definitely go. And they grow these, and the company that makes this oil for us is so amazing. So these berries are grown in a very remote area, and it's an area which is populated by a very interesting group of people. So there's Buddhists alongside Muslims and Christians all together in this area. And they don't have a lot of money, and they have to find ways to get through these really cold winters. So one of the ways that they've done this is that the women during harvest season harvest these berries and sell them. And so the company came in and they were looking at this, and they saw how much money previous people had been paying these hardworking multicultural women to harvest these berries, and over the course of 3 years increased their salaries 5-fold so that they are able to, in one harvest season, get enough money to keep their entire families safe with food and water and warm throughout the entire winter. So they have really done an amazing job culturally in this region as well. So we love working with companies that are thinking not just about the products that they sell, but about the people who are associated with them. And we love working with them. They're great. But these little berries go and get squished, and the oil that comes out is super high in wonderful omegas. And pomegranate seed oil is another one that's super high in omegas. And we've got great oils in there. But then, so once we had the oils, once we found these sources and had these amazing, potent, nutrient-dense oils, we had to figure out, okay, what are we going to put them in? And the standard in the industry is something called a soft gel. And it's essentially a process which they call form, fill, seal. So they take whatever the material is, and it can be vegetarian or it can be gelatin. And, it's a lot of different things. But they have it kind of mostly melted, and they form it around the oil, and then they cool it, and then they seal it as it's going through the process. In order to flow, though, the matrix, the shell material, has to be hot. So as it starts touching the oil, where it's touching the outside of the oil as it's being formed, it's actually starting to degrade the oil, because these omegas, these oils, are actually very heat sensitive. So the sheer fact of making it into a soft gel is actually starting to degrade it. And there's no way of nitrogen blanketing it. There's no way of doing anything to protect against that degradation. So I knew I didn't really want to do that. We looked at having just oils that you would put into a pump and like pump into a teaspoon and eat, but the oils don't always taste great. So we thought that would be challenging. But then we came across our capsule manufacturer, who was doing this kind of new technology, which is a 2-piece hard shell capsule. And they had been developing the plant-based capsule shell, the tapioca pullulan capsule shell, for some time, but hadn't really had it perfected. So we were like, well, that's the shell that we want. So we need you to work on that. And so for the next year and a half, we worked with them to optimize the capsule shell for our oils. So this capsule has been developed essentially for our oils, which to me it means that, we couldn't get better protection for this, for sure. And we worked with them to optimize their actual manufacturing process. The benefits of this 2-piece hard shell capsule are that the oil is not hot when it goes in there. The capsule shell has already been made, so it's not warm at all. You fill it into the capsule shell, and then we blanket it with nitrogen before we close it and seal it. And that adds an additional layer of protection. So not only do we have the best oils in this product, but we have the best encapsulation technology in this as well. So we know that these oils within this 2-piece hard shell capsule are being protected from degradation, so that you are getting these great benefits of these oils as well. So that product has been absolutely, from concept to finding the oils, working with the manufacturers on the oil side, to working with the encapsulator that makes the capsules and encapsulates this product. This project has been an absolute labor of love for me. And I actually have an intolerance to fish. So I also was developing this specifically for me, so that I could take an amazing high quality omega as well. So I hope everybody enjoys that I develop products for me.
That's great. Well, before we got on, we were just talking about, you joined the company 10 years ago, and we were kind of, alone in the wilderness around whole food, plant-based nutrition based products in the marketplace of ideas. And over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of other sort of Me Too attempts to copy us. We're starting to see some copycatters, which is a good thing. But we want to stay ahead of the pack. We want to stay ahead of the game. We always want to be the market leader, the market maker. And as I say, that the Google of search, or the Kleenex of tissue paper. What are you working on, or what are you excited about now to on the product innovation side? We obviously have the published efficacy side, which, we stand without peer, around, keeping best practices, raising the bar. What are we doing to stay ahead of the pack?
Yeah, that's actually, so the way that you described it is very good. So it's, but we use a little bit of a different terminology. So we talk about innovation when it's around new ideas. So new things, like Omega was an innovation project. The way that we kind of talk about keeping ourselves ahead of the game on the existing products is we call that renovation. So we look at we're always looking at renovating our products. We've done quite a lot, of renovation around our products over the last several years. So we've added some new ingredients. We've kind of adjusted the base a little bit. We've tried to make even the plus side. So we like to think about Juice Plus as the juice side, which is all those great fruit, vegetable, berry, and grain powders, and the plus side, which are the added kind of nutrients that help us to meet label claim consistently. So those are the things like vitamin E, the beta carotene, the folic acid, vitamin C that we had been adding. And our goal.
Wait, let me just stop you right there, because that can be a little confusing for people, and I think that's just an important quick aside. And maybe just use that as an opportunity to introduce the new people to our company, how great a relationship we have with the FDA, how we're positioned as a food product, but in the labeling, in the standardization of the 4 or 5 nutrients that are actually on a food label, how we do the plus part, because that's really, I think, important for new people to understand.
Yeah, so we most companies that sell a product in a capsule consider themselves a supplement just because it's a capsule. But we really felt like we had a much different product. So we felt like it was really just food. It's dehydrated food. Why would we not call this a food? And so we've had several communications with the FDA. Being the FDA, they're never going to tell us, yeah, we're totally good with that. But they essentially have given us no objections to the way that we sell our product, which is as good as you'll ever get from the FDA. They reserve the right to change their mind at any point in time. But so far, over the 25 years of the Juice Plus history, we've sold the product as a food, and we really feel like it is a food. But because of that, food labeling is different than supplement labeling. And so when you label a food, you have to label certain nutrients. So that's vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin A, and folic acid. So these are things that have to be labeled. They're changing a little bit over the next couple years, but these are things that are just required. And one thing that people don't necessarily know is that the nutrient levels of fruits and vegetables can actually vary quite broadly depending on where they're grown, grow seasons, how much sun something had. So what we actually see is that even in the same field, if you have a field that has a sunny side and a not as sunny side, you end up seeing vastly different nutrient levels from the sides of the same field, given the same nutrients, the same water, everything. It's very difficult to kind of have that consistency from year to year. So what we decided to do back at the very origins of Juice Plus is to kind of bump up the levels of those things that have to be labeled and make them consistent batch to batch. So to do that, we were adding some small amount of these nutrients that kind of made it a consistent level. So that's kind of the plus side that I was speaking of.
Did you want to add anything else?
No, go. Well, I was just going to say that.
No, that's perfect. That was great. Okay, just kind of in closing, we're headed into Tampa. Maybe tell us. I've heard you say in some of the videos that you've got the best job in the world. It's obvious that you love what you do, and trying to take our company, to keep us ahead of the pack and then expand our offerings. And what I love about our company is how focused we are on doing a few things and being the best for the world, as Jay says. And we're never going to have a catalog of stuff, but talk to us about, what you're most excited about right now that you're working on, and maybe give a sneak peek into why people should, bother to come to Tampa and learn about the other things that you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of in that same framework, I was talking about the juice side and the plus side. So what we've been really focused on the renovation side lately is taking those nutrients that are on the plus side and really making them come to life from the juice side as well. So the first one that we did was folic acid, and we actually replaced the folic acid ingredient with lemon peel, which is naturally high in folates. And so in Tampa, if you come to Tampa, you may see more of that. So some new ingredients that are replacing some of the plus side that are more fruit-based. So, for example, we already have acerola cherry in our fruit product, and it's very naturally high in vitamin C. So I'm not going to say anything, but you can expect something similar, like in all of the products. And then we have something, we're actually including a new nutrient in the products. Hopefully, we've got to finish all the testing, but you may see some brand new, exciting vegan nutrients in the products soon. So that's super exciting to see in Tampa. And we've got some innovation products that we've been looking at. So for people who have, kind of like 2:30 in the afternoon, after lunch, maybe you had a big lunch and you're not on your shred right now, and you're starting to get a little sleepy, or you want to go in to work out, but you're not sure you have all that energy, there may be something coming soon that could help naturally help get through kind of those energy slumps. So lots of exciting things that were going on. And again, we still have a lot of testing to do, a lot of things. So this is just between us.
Just between us. Yes. It won't go any farther than us. I forgot to mention Complete. Any fun stories or innovation or things you could, Complete, a whole other plant powder conversation. And is there anything that you want to share on Complete? We kind of forgot about our sister Complete there.
Yeah, I love Complete. Honestly, I drink Complete every day. I think it's a fantastic product. That's another one that we've kind of fully redone over the years to make it,
specifically, let me ask you a specific question. I think a lot of the questions in the field is, soy. And then the soy thing comes up, and it's an opportunity for us to educate, not to overwhelm, but to say, give us the distinction of the soy that we use and how we do it and why it's different, and I think that's going to be helpful for new people. So.
Yeah. So first of all, soy in and of itself is healthy. There has never been a human clinical study that shows that soy is anything other than beneficial. And the more clinical studies that come out, the more clear that is. So that's phase one. Phase two is we actually take a lot of care to use the least amount of processing possible on our soy. So we water wash our soy. So we take our soy from the field and we just wash it in water at different temperatures to increase the protein content of it. It still has a lot of those, what we call co-nutrients that go along with it. And to us, that makes it more like nature than like a lot of the other products out there. So a lot of people are concerned about the term isolate. The term isolate is just a term that defines the percentage of protein in a product. It has nothing to do with how that product is processed. So our product, it is an isolate because it's 90% protein, but it's low processed and maintains a lot more of the co-nutrients that make it a beneficial product. So we really feel like it's very different. Additionally, and I'll just say this one last thing about soy, we did a clinical study in ovarian cancer survivors at MD Anderson Cancer Research Center. That clinical study included the Complete Soy Protein product. It had to go through what's called an IRB, an Investigational Review Board. And that Investigational Review Board looks at the products and the population to see if there is any damage that the products could cause to that population. And the IRB had no problem approving the soy-based Complete for that clinical study. In addition to that, the group that was taking the soy-based Complete actually had better nutritional outlooks than the group that was not taking the soy-based Complete. And there were no differences in negative outcomes between the two. So to me, that without a doubt says that our soy-based Complete product is perfectly healthy for even a challenged population like ovarian cancer survivors.
That's really great. There's a lot of urban myths out there that we get the opportunity to educate and shine the light on some perceptions and conversations, and certainly that's one of them. I want to thank you for your time. I'd love to keep going with you, but for those in the 90-day game, we offer these as kind of extra and add-on, and you were at the top of the list when I kind of polled the audience is, tell us how this stuff is made and bring that a little bit to life. So I want to thank you for your time. And any parting words for us as we head into the rest of summer and out there trying to make a difference one person at a time, Liza?
Yeah, I think, the parting words I have for most people is don't try and be an expert at everything. Find one or two things that you are passionate about and talk passionately about them. And if you have people who have questions about things that you are not as educated on or you don't feel comfortable talking about, ask us. That's what we're here for. So between Dr. Madero, the call center, and myself, we can always get you answers. I'm always available to do some three-way calls if I'm not traveling to farms and stuff. So we're always here to help. And I think, the best thing that most people can be is passionate.
Amen. Great way to end it. I don't want you to get inundated with three-way calls from 12,000 people. So I want everyone to respect Liza's time. If you're new, if you've got questions about how Juice Plus is made, please get with your mentors and the people who got you into this business and kind of go through the people that have been around for a while to kind of get you those answers. As I say, what part of this don't you get? The fruit and vegetable part, the juicing the part, the drying the part, or the encapsulation part? It's pretty straightforward. So in the end, the common sense of what we do should usually accommodate 90% of the conversation, but for that 10%, sometimes there's things that are helpful. This is why we do these calls, and I want to thank Liza for your time. This is fantastic. We're going to do this again next winter and get into a little bit more detail and some fun other questions. But thank you for all you do and innovation. What a cool job you have.
It really is. It's the best job in the world for sure.
Thank you, Liza. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, I stopped the recording. That was fantastic. I do want to